Welcome, Kristin Keiper-Berneman, to the Dying to Know More podcast. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for asking me to be on this.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. Tell me about Good Grieve Nashville.
Yeah, so I'm really trying to create what I wish had existed for me when I needed it years ago. Mm-hmm. So my dad and my oldest daughter never met. She was born about almost a year after he passed. And when she was about 3 at bedtime, she started to ask me a lot of questions, and she knew who my dad or Papa was from songs and from pictures and stories. But she started to ask me questions about when he died, and I answered them. And then the next night at bedtime, she asked again. And then for the next few nights at bedtime, she kept asking. And I was really scared that I had done this wrong. Basically, I thought, well, I guess maybe I should never have told her. Maybe I should have pretended I didn't have a dad. I kind of had all those really intense thoughts that we can have as parents. Basically, is this the moment that I set her on a path for therapy? And then I was really fortunate. I was in grad school at the same time that she started to ask these questions. And about 6 months later, I had a course on developmental perspectives to grief. And that's where I learned for a 3-year-old, they will always ask repetitive questions because they don't have yet the brain sophistication to understand something that permanent. Gotcha. And so what she was doing was perfectly normal and typical, but I didn't know that. And when it was happening, I thought, well, I guess I could leave a rambling voicemail with my pediatrician, and that didn't feel good. And I did think, should I call hospice? And I didn't, only because my dad passed in Florida. It wasn't here or local. Now I know that, of course, I could have called Alive, but at the time I just really felt stuck and stumped. And then when I learned that I had done nothing wrong and neither had my daughter, I really wanted to share that with more parents. I know I'm not unique in that I had really curious kids questions, and I didn't know who to ask to help answer them. So that's what Good Grieve is there for.
Okay. And so was there any sort of blueprint, another type of organization like this, or was this just completely conceptualized by you?
I kind of wish there were, because I think that would make me feel better that I was following a path. This is really... it feels unique, and I'd love to hear from someone that would tell me, no, it's not, and that they've done it, and that we could partner and team up. But it really kind of draws from a few different specialties that are more well-known: counseling, child life specialists, end-of-life doulas. And what I noticed was that when I was looking for answers, I may have told you this already, I bet at one time when I was struggling with my daughter's questions, I probably Googled kid, talk, death. And the results that came back were all for support groups for parents who had lost a child. And although that also was grief that needs support, it was really different than what I was trying to find, which were conversational cues and words to use and kind of how to have this talk. And so everywhere I keep looking, I just don't see it. And I think we're so uncomfortable around grief, and for good reason. No one has taught us how to do this. We've been separated from it for over 100 years. There are good reasons why it makes us uncomfortable. Right. But I don't see anyone else trying to fill the gap for parents. Right. That we can learn. This is a really learnable skill. We can know how to have these talks with our kids and to do them well.
So describe for me then your ideal, like who is your ideal client? Is it parents? Is it any adult or caregiver? I mean, tell me more about that.
It's almost any adult in the life of a kid. And so I have really struggled to narrow that down in ways that make a lot of sense. But for right now, I kind of think of myself as offering 2 complementary services. So the first is community education. I will partner with schools, with youth organizations, with communities of faith, and provide some really basic what to say, what not to say for any of the adults in the life of a child. So yes, it's typically parents, but it's also teachers, it's also scout leaders, it's little league coaches, Sunday school teachers. It is for the child through all the adults that surround them.
So you don't actually work with children.
So then the other service that I offer would be for families. So maybe a family has just received a life-limiting illness diagnosis for a family member, and parents or caregivers are pretty nervous about how to have this conversation. I can come help coach them in how this conversation is going to go. What are the really common questions their kids might ask, and how from our brain at 30, 40, 50, 80 thinks about death is very different than what a 4, 7, 12, 18-year-old thinks of when they think of death. So kind of helping transfer the mindset also to the adults. And sometimes a family might call me and they're making funeral arrangements right then. And so I could come in and be there right alongside them if they're here in Nashville, or virtually if they're somewhere else, and really help them have that conversation.
And back to the difference in how we all kind of process grief differently at different ages. How different is a child's grief process and grief processing capabilities? How different are those from an adult, and how different are they from, say, 4 years old to 8 years old? Or how describe that for me?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I was relieved to hear was normal was the repetitive asking of questions, probably from about 0 to 5. And I'll also say that these are age ranges that are based on a more neurotypical brain. So if one of our children has a neurodivergent brain, then we're probably going to have a lot more flexibility on when I say an age range. The other thing that I think is kind of a light bulb that we have as adults, because it makes sense, but you really have to remember, oh yeah. So if you can think as a kid, if we can time travel for a minute, so we're gonna pretend we're 5 or 6. We're in kindergarten, and we have a wiggly tooth, and we're so excited because it's our first one, and we know that other classmates have already been visited by the tooth fairy, and this is our chance. So we lose our tooth, we put it under the pillow, and we have so much power that we have a fairy that comes to visit us, and it takes the tooth and it gives us money or whatever the family tradition is. But we have that kind of power. That's called magical thinking. And so the same thing can happen. We think of that as really positive, right? Well, that same kind of train of thinking happens even when something happens that was negative. Right. So maybe grandpa died, and we're 5 or 6, and we start to think, oh, well, I know I'm not supposed to kick my brother, but he made me really mad and I kicked him. And then now grandpa died. I bet this was my fault. We know, of course it's not.
Right.
But that's actually where a typical child brain is going to make sense of something like this. So it's really worth clarifying, you did nothing wrong. Also, the person who died did nothing wrong.
Right.
So I think those are two kind of quick mindsets that just show us how different a child's concept is than ours with all of our life experience.
Okay. How is this sort of a one session process? Is this an ongoing process? It may depend upon the stage that families are in. What does that look like?
Yeah, it would really depend on what the family needs.
Okay.
And my education sessions are usually an annual kind of visit, would be what I would recommend in terms of building just a baseline comfort in what to expect, what to say, what words to retire from our use or not use. We can use in our friend group. So I always still say my dad passed or my dad passed away. When I'm talking to a small child, I know that those words aren't clear enough.
Right.
So I will say he died.
Right.
And so I think, gosh, what was the question that you asked me right before that? It's already floated out of my.
About whether it's just a one session.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so the education can be a one-time session, but the family meetings would really depend on what the family needed and where they were and what they felt they wanted some help with.
Gotcha. Did you? I was preparing for this last night, and I've kind of had a flashback to when I was a freshman in high school, and my grandmother passed away, and the next day I was at school, and it kind of just sunk in, and I just started crying, and one of the teachers asked me why, and I was like, well, my grandmother passed away last night. And she said, well, how old was she? And I said, she's 82. And she was like, oh. And it was like, her response was just like, oh, well, she's, she was time. It was time for her to, like, that's what it felt like. And so then I felt silly crying about it. And I it's, so I think the work that you're doing is incredibly important for even situations like that. I was in high school, but
Yeah.
did you ever have any sort of, have you had any experience?
I'm sorry that happened, and I'm also unsurprised. We say really
Sorry, my dog is
wrong,
losing her mind right now.
oh, I'm sorry.
My dog is losing her mind right now.
Oh, I'm sure mine will join in soon. Yeah, so I'm sorry and not surprised because we just don't know what to say. We mean well.
Yeah.
That teacher probably thought he or she was doing something kind by getting you to refocus and not cry. But there's really almost no age that we think, oh, you're right, that they did have a good life. I wouldn't want them here any longer.
Right.
It's just not. That's not the way we're built. And I do know that so many of us are so well intended, and we just haven't had to stop and think maybe, unless it's happened to us and we felt how bad that comment actually felt.
Yeah.
I haven't felt one recently, but I will say my mom lost her home twice in the last 3 hurricane seasons. It was flooded, and then it was rebuilt, and then she flooded again. And when I was down in Florida helping her figure out our next steps, we ran into someone that we had grown up with, just kind of out of chance in the city commission office. And he said something like, well, you won't ever get more than you can handle. And I thought, that really isn't helpful right now for my elderly homeless mother.
Yeah.
And I knew that what he meant was well-intended and to remind her of her faith, which is really important to her, but it didn't land well. And I think, wow, we could not only get better for our kids, we could get better for our friends, for our neighbors, and for our coworkers. Wouldn't it be nice to feel like the next time one of our coworkers has a loss, we don't have to avoid them in the coffee in the Keurig area?
Right.
We can know with confidence how to manage a conversation, and if it comes up, we know what to say, and if it doesn't, that might also be okay.
What have you had when did you found Good Grieve Nashville?
About a year ago.
And so in that time, have you had a really impactful or standout moment in your work that you just kind of treasure or hold dear?
I hope so, and I hope to have more of them. So the one that I can think of that was most recent was, so sleepaway camp is a pretty big tradition in our family. I went to one, my husband went to one, my daughters now go to his childhood camp. and they had just gotten back on July 2nd. And of course, we know what happened in the Texas Hill Country. And I made a video because I did decide to share it with my older daughter, because I thought the odds are good that you're going to be at the community pool, or you're going to be somewhere and you're going to hear some adults talking about it. And so I made the decision that yes, I would tell her about it. I recorded a video and I posted it on the Good Grieve Instagram and Facebook page. And I heard from many that they really appreciated it. I have one close friend here that said she told her daughter, and she basically almost word by word used what I had provided as a template.
Amazing.
And that is such a good, it feels like it's something we all deserve, and we don't know where to find it. So I feel very grateful that I could put something together that helps others in such a sensitive time.
Yeah.
Because we know it matters, but if we don't have an example or a model or a template to pull from, we just feel stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that post. It was amazing.
Thank you. I'm glad. Remind me of the ages. You have olders and then you have one that's younger, right?
Yes, she's 10, almost 11, and she too went to camp this year.
Yeah.
And we're big camp fans.
Yeah.
That was an intense time for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess I can appreciate it a little bit differently now, having seen my mom recover from multiple hurricanes. Once the news coverage moves on, things aren't improved.
Right.
And my heart is searching for ways to still stay connected and do something meaningful, even though it's not the top headline anymore.
Right. Right. So you're also a school counselor, and you helped your school earn grief sensitive school status. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did.
Tell me what that means and the work that went into getting that status.
Oh, sure. So I'm no longer, but I was in the Metro Public Schools for about 5 years, and I spent the last 3 of them at Percy Priest Elementary.
Okay.
And in one of my searches for more of my own grief education resources, I found this grant. And as I looked at it, I thought, well, this seems kind of ideal. So it was founded in 2018 by the New York Life Foundation. They did a survey at a national teachers federation, and found that something like over 85% of teachers have never had any kind of grief education.
Wow.
But every day they're supporting our students who have even really typical losses, like the loss of a pet, the loss of a grandparent. Those are the 2 most common in childhood. So we're asking our educators to do so much. And in addition to that, know what to say and do, except we've never taught them. Right. So this grant was created to fill that gap. Okay. And it's a one-time award of $500. And what you commit to is offering an annual training to your staff. And the training can really fit whatever the school needs. It could be a book club. It could be a professional development led by someone like myself. It could be watching some of the pre-made training videos that the foundation creates. But it is giving just some really simple what to say, what not to say to our teachers that are with our students every day. And I heard some really great things from that. I was really happy. I'm always cognizant of how much we ask of our teachers, and I didn't want to seem as though I'm bringing one more thing for them to do. Yeah. And I think this was received as, or at least my hope was that it would be received as, you do this really hard thing all the time, but now we're going to help you know how to do it. Yeah. And so I did hear things like, I wish I'd had this years ago. And I guess I do think, even as a counselor, it was an elective for me. Yeah. That means there are schools where even the people you send your students to when they have a loss, they're kind of winging it and just doing the best they can.
Yeah.
And so to give just a few simple phrases and a few prompts basically, or scripts, I think can make a big difference. And it it's a bad feeling to have that discomfort in your body, right? Because
Yeah.
you know it's important, you have real love for the child or the student, and you want to get it right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing.
So I don't know if that answered your question. The grant is so simple. I think the word grant scares some people off because some grants have lengthy application processes. I filled out a 1-page form online. Then I was contacted by the foundation. We had 5 people sit for a half-hour virtual presentation, and then we committed to annual training, and that was it. It's really, really simple and impactful.
Very impactful.
I hope schools everywhere will do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of, they may not even know it exists. So that's great information.
Yeah.
Okay. So looking ahead, like what's your long-term goal for Good Grieve? What are you going to?
I would love, I think when my husband asked me what I wanted to build, I said, I want to build a movement. And he said, that's not a business. And I said, I get that. He's an entrepreneur, but truly that is what I would like to build is a new generation of brave parents who know they can have this conversation.
Yep. Yep. All right. I have 3 standard questions that I ask everybody that I interview. So I'll rapid fire these.
Great.
What has your work that you do taught you about living?
Oh, I think the more comfortable we can get with the end, the more grateful we are for what we have. Mm-hmm. And we can spend our time with more intention. So I think it kind of is, it's in everything.
Yeah. Are you afraid to die? Why or why not?
I heard you ask that to some of the other guests. I bet I have the really normal parent answer of, I would sure like to be around long enough to see my daughters grow and thrive and make sure that all the lessons and the values and the stories are transferred. That would be my hope. And then, am I afraid? No. So one of the books that I read, I think it's called The Grace in Dying. The author's last name is Singh, if I have that right. She said that there is a peace, a peacefulness that we can hardly comprehend that happens in the end. And that brings me a lot of comfort too.
Yes.
So I think even when I think about how I won't get to pick or control the ending, I think that knowing that there is a peace that I can hardly comprehend, that gives me a lot of comfort. That and my faith beliefs.
Yeah. Okay. And then you already sort of answered the last one. Single most important thing you want to experience before or accomplish before you die?
Single's hard. This work is to me about 2 things. It's about family and it's about living the good life. And I think helping others build their comfort in loss really achieves both those things. It helps families and it helps us live a better life.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything we didn't cover that you feel is important to let anybody know about?
No, but I'm curious if any of your kids, thank you for sharing about your high school experience. And I'm sure your listeners will have, all of a sudden, they'll remember a time where someone said something that just didn't really meet the moment. Yeah. I'm wondering, have you had to have any of these conversations with your littles and how you felt in them? Or your bigs?
We lost my husband's father when the older 3 were younger. I think I went and he had to fly up there, the next morning. And so I was kind of left to have that kind of conversation because he was gone before they woke up even. And I think if I recall correctly, I think I mainly just felt awkward and unsure of how to, for exactly like you described, like how do you what words do you say and how do you relay the permanence and how do you help support, because there's going to be tears, and what do you say to support that, you know what I mean? And so I remember feeling pretty awkward and just wondering if I was doing it right. Yeah. So I think your mission and your why for starting Good Grieve is very much a universal experience that people probably have had. And so I think the work is very relevant and important and hopefully impactful and movement starting. So
thank you for sharing that.
I appreciate your time today, and I'm really excited to publish this episode. It's going to be great.
Thank you.